You're going to begin your practice by coming onto your mat and going into a wide child's pose. Now you're going to rise up onto a hands and knees position. This is called box pose. As you exhale, you'll arch your back up towards the sky and let your head drop. And as you inhale, you'll want to drop the belly low and bring the head back up. You're going to do this 5 times. Keep your movement at a steady pace with your breath. And one more. Exhale. And then come back into a neutral position, which is your box position. Step your right foot to your right thumb and rise into a crescent lunge on the knee. It's important to make sure that your hips are squared to the front of the mat so that you get an even stretch on both sides. Your right knee should be at a 90-degree angle, and your hips should be directly above your left knee on the ground. Hold for one more breath. Switch sides. Step your left foot to your left thumb and rise into a crescent lunge on the knee. Hold for 4 more breaths. Inhale as you bring both feet to the top of the mat, mountain pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And hold for 1 breath. Inhale as you bring both feet to the top of the mat, mountain pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And hold for 1 breath. Inhale as you bring both feet to the top of the mat, mountain pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And hold for 1 breath. Bring both feet to the top of the mat, and as you inhale, rise into mountain. Exhale, forward fold. And as you inhale, come into a halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And as you inhale, come into a chair pose for 3 breaths. You don't want your knees to come over your toes in chair pose, so you'll want to be able to still see your toes over your knees while holding this. On this last exhale, you'll want to bring both hands to the mat for a forward fold. Inhale as you come into a halfway lift. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog, and hold for 1 breath. Step your right foot to your right thumb and rise into Warrior 1. You'll want your back foot to be parallel with the mat. You'll want your knee to be directly over your ankle. You can check this by leaning forward and making sure that the middle of your knee is in line with your middle toe. That way your knee is not leaning to either side. You'll hold this position for 1 more breath. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And hold for 1 breath. Bring both feet to the top of the mat. Inhale, mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale and rise into chair pose. Hold for 3 breaths. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And hold for 1 breath. Inhale and step your left foot to your left thumb and rise into Warrior 1 on the left side. You're going to hold this position for 3 breaths. You'll also want to make sure that your wrists are directly over your shoulders and that your shoulders are directly over your hips. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And hold for 1 breath. Bring both feet to the top of the mat. Inhale, mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale and rise into chair pose. Hold for 3 breaths. On this last exhale, you'll want to bring both hands to the mat for a forward fold. Inhale as you come into a halfway lift. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And hold for 1 breath. Step your right foot to your right thumb and rise into Warrior 1. Hold for 3 breaths. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And hold for 1 breath. Bring both feet to the top of the mat. Inhale, mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale and rise into chair pose. Hold for 3 breaths. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale and step your left foot to your left thumb and rise into warrior 1 on the left side. You're going to hold this position for 3 breaths. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Bring both feet to the top of the mat and bound your hands behind your back. Hinge at the hips for a bound forward fold. Hold for 3 breaths. Release and come into a chair pose with your hands in a prayer position. Hold for 3 breaths. You're going to come into a revolved chair position by bringing both feet to the top of the mat and rising into chair pose with your right elbow on your left knee. Hands will be in prayer position and your shoulders will be stacked over each other. Make sure that your knees stay in line by pulling your hip backwards just a little bit to keep those knees straight. Release and switch sides. Knees should be directly over your ankles. Hold for 3 breaths. Rise into mountain pose with your hands over your head. Come into a crescent lunge with your right foot forward and your left foot back, similar to warrior 1, but your heel is not on the ground. You are on the ball of your left foot. Hands are on the hips. Into a revolve crescent lunge by placing your left hand on your left thigh and bending back, stretching the right arm up. Hold for 3 more breaths. Release and come into mountain pose and shake your legs out a bit. Come into a crescent lunge with the left foot forward, rising onto the ball of your right foot, hands on your hips. Come into a revolved crescent lunge with your right hand on your right thigh, stretching your left arm up and back. Hold for 2 more breaths. Release and shake your legs out. Rise into mountain pose with your hands over your head. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Step your right foot to your right thumb and rise into Warrior One. As you exhale, extend your arms into Warrior Two. Make sure your hips are squared to the long side of your mat. Straighten the right knee and rotate your left foot to point forward and bring your arms up. Hinge at the hips and bring your hands to the mat. As you exhale, try to bring your head a little bit closer to your knee. Remember to keep the back straight. Hold pyramid pose for 3 more breaths. If this is challenging for you, you can rise up onto your fingertips. And if you have yoga blocks, you can use those to elevate your hands off of the mat a little bit. Gently shift your weight and open up on the right side, bringing the right arm up and making sure that your shoulders are stacked. Chest should be open towards the right side of your mat. Hold this revolved triangle position for 1 more breath. Release and come into Warrior One with your left foot forward. Exhale and open up into Warrior Two. Straighten the left knee and rotate the right foot towards the top of the mat. Bring your hands up and then hinge at the hips and place your hands on the mat. Hold this pyramid pose for 3 more breaths. Shift your weight to your right hand and open up on the left side, stretching your left arm up and making sure you stack the shoulders. Eye gaze should be towards the top of your hand. Hold for 3 more breaths. Release and bring both feet to the top of the mat and rise into mountain. Interlace your hands behind your back and stretch your shoulders. Hold for 3 more breaths. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Lift your right leg up into the air for a three-legged downward dog. If you need to, you can bend your left knee a little bit and come onto the ball of your left foot. Make sure that your back remains straight and your hips remain straight as well. As you exhale, bring your right knee up towards your head and hold for a downward facing dog with knee to forehead. Make sure that your shoulders are stacked directly over your wrists and try to maintain a plank formation. Release and come into box pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Rise into mountain pose with your hands over your head. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and come into a low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Lift your left leg up toward the sky and come into three-legged downward facing dog on the other side. Hold for 3 breaths. Bring your left knee down and towards your forehead and hold for downward facing dog with knee to head. Release and come into your box pose and rest here. You can also move into child's pose if you would rather. Go ahead and lower down to the mat. Palms should be facing towards the sky. You're going to lift your palms, legs, and chest off of the ground and hold for 3 breaths. Go ahead and lower down to the mat. Inhale and come into locust again for 3 seconds. And then come back into a neutral position, which is your box position. Go ahead and lower down to the mat. Bring your palms to the mat up by your head and push up on your elbows, lifting just your chest off the ground for Sphinx. You're going to pull your shoulders together and down and make sure that you do not lift the bottom edge of your rib cage off of the ground. Go ahead and lower down to the mat. Inhale and come into a high cobra. This is similar to upward facing dog, but your back will be more arched. Eye gaze will be towards the sky and your neck will be relaxed. Go ahead and lower down to the mat. Go ahead and come onto your back. You can come into child's pose, or you can tuck your knees into your chest, whatever feels the most comfortable for you. Take this time to focus on your breath. Begin to rise back up and come onto your knees. Place both hands on your lower back and make sure to keep your hips directly over your knees as you lean back into camel pose. Hold for 3 breaths. You can keep your hands on your hips, or you can reach your hands back and grab your ankles, whatever is most comfortable for yourself. Release and come back up slowly. And come back into camel for a second time. Hold for 3 breaths. And then come back into a neutral position, which is your box position. Shift your weight to your left side and bring your right knee up towards your head. Core should be engaged and back should be slightly arched. Exhale and extend your right leg straight back for one-legged table. Release and come back into box. Shift your weight to your right side and then tuck your left knee in towards your head. Exhale and extend your left leg straight back. Make sure to keep your back straight and your neck neutral. And then come back into a neutral position, which is your box position. Rotate into side plank on the knee, extending your left leg outwards and opening up your chest. Make sure your shoulders are stacked and you are pushing your hips up towards the sky. And then come back into a neutral position, which is your box position. Switch sides and extend your right leg out on the mat and open up, bringing your right arm straight up. Release and come into a box position. And as you exhale, come down onto the ground. Lift your legs up, perpendicular to the ground, and we're going to do what is called leg lifts. So as you inhale, go ahead and drop your legs down 1/3 of the way. Hold. Drop them down 1 more third. Hold. And then all the way down to where they are barely hovering above the ground. And then lift all the way back up. Lower down 1/3. 1 more third. All the way down. And then come back up. Go ahead and bring your knees back in for a tuck, and you can either rock side to side or you can grab your knees and draw circles with your knees, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Come into a sitting position, and you're going to lift your legs off of the ground so that your shins are parallel with the ground, and you can hold the back of your knees. You're going to come into a full boat by extending your arms down by your legs. Make sure that you keep your back straight during this position, and your eye gaze could be at the top of your toes. Release and lay down on your mat. And tuck your right knee into your chest. Hold for 2 breaths. Switch sides and tuck your left knee into your chest. Hold for 2 breaths. Release and come into corpse pose. And come into a sitting position. You're going to bring the soles of your feet together and sit up straight, making sure that your back is straight. This is called cobbler's pose. Bring your right hand to your right knee and bring your left hand towards the back of the mat. Sit up straight. Eye gaze should be over your left shoulder. It's important to twist from the middle of the back instead of just rotating the shoulders. Switch sides. Bring your left hand to your right knee. Right hand will come to the mat and eye gaze will be over your right shoulder. As you release, come into a sitting position with both legs extended out in front of you. Hinge at the hips and fold forward, making sure that you grab on to the outer edges of your feet with both hands and keep the back as straight as possible. Release and keep your right leg extended straight in front of you and bend your left knee to bring your foot to your inner thigh. Grab both edges of your right foot with both hands and lean forward, bringing your head to your knee. Remember to only stretch as much as you are comfortable with. Exhale and release, and switch sides. Extend your left leg in front of you, bringing your right foot to your inner thigh. You're going to bring the soles of your feet together. As you exhale, go ahead and lower down, but make sure to keep your back as straight as possible. You can come onto your elbows, or you can stretch your arms all the way out and walk your hands forward, whatever feels the most comfortable for you. Begin to transition to supine bound angle, which is where your feet and your legs are in the exact same position, but you are laying on your back. Hold this position for 3 breaths. Exhale and bring your legs up towards your ribs. Grab the outsides of your feet and bring your legs out. This is called Happy Baby. Hold this for 2 more breaths. Release and bring both legs down to the mat. Tuck your right knee into your chest. Bring your right knee up and fold it over towards the left side of your body for a supine twist. Make sure you keep both of your shoulders on the ground and your arms out to the side. It's important that as you're twisting, you're continuing to keep your right shoulder pressed into the ground. And switch sides. Bring your left knee up and then bring it over towards the right side of your body. Make sure that you bring your left shoulder to the ground and that you continue to make sure it is pressed to the ground. Release and bring your right foot over onto your left thigh. Grab your left leg behind your knee with both hands and pull your leg towards your body. Hold for 2 breaths. Release and switch sides. You'll bring your left ankle on top of your right knee and then pull your leg towards your body. Hold for 2 breaths. Go ahead and bring your knees back in for a tuck, and you can either rock side to side or you can grab your knees and draw circles with your knees, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Release and come into your final corpse pose. With every exhale, relax deeper into your mat. We're going to hold this position for 5 minutes. Take this time to really relax and let your body rest. Start to wiggle your toes and your fingers and start to come back because our practice is over.